It's Friday and we're live again. Hello, everyone on LinkedIn, on Facebook, those who are just dropping in to us now. We're slightly later than usual for our hospitality highlights on Friday. So welcome. I'm joined as usual by Cara, who is going to run the show, make sure that we stick to time and introduce our fabulous guests this week. Cara, over to you, please.
I feel like you only have me on here to keep you under control, Kris, actually, at times. Yes, we are slightly later today, and that is because one of our guests, who I will introduce, is in America, and it would have to have got up at about 3 a.m. to do this, so we thought it would be nice and move it back a little bit. But yeah, so today we are discussing empowering those who work in hospitality to be the ones who drive change. And also, if we get to it, off the back of last week's Best Places to Work in Hospitality Awards, we want to talk about the importance of celebrating those employers who are getting it right and making headway with that. So our guests today are Laurie Watkins, CEO and founder of the Cooks Collective. Hi, Laurie. And Pawel Kukulka. I don't know if I've said that.
Very good.
Director at People Person Recruitment. So welcome both.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for having us.
We're looking forward to it. So Laurie, let's start with you actually. Let's start with, tell us a little bit about the Cooks Collective, because some people won't know anything about it. And also, when I had a chat with Kris previous to this, jumping on this podcast, he wanted to know a little bit about Cooks to the Polls. So maybe you can put that into a nice bite-sized chunk for us all to digest.
Sure. We are a fairly new nonprofit launched, and we are an advocacy organization based here in the Washington, D.C. area in our nation's capital. And we focus on policy advocacy training for those food and beverage industry professionals. We also do peer-to-peer mentoring, as well as connect folks with our partners who offer mental health solutions. And part of that advocacy work, of course, it's important of the people that get elected into power, that have positions of power that can be influenced through advocacy work on mental health parity, making sure that the federal government, through whatever channels, is funding mental health services, and especially in this industry, which they are currently not in the food and beverage industry, as we know, which has very high rates of depression, anxiety, etc. Building upon that, this year is an election year here in the United States, a big one, presidential election coming up. And so it's very important through that advocacy work that we encourage people and promote folks to be registered to vote. Folks move around all the time, make sure that they're registered properly, and then doing parties to the polls, Cooks to the Polls, which is going to be where we will have those food and beverage industry workers and restaurant owners hosting parties across the country at early voting locations to make sure that people are staying hydrated, that they're staying fed, and just having a good old time while they are waiting in line because of some of the barriers that certain states have put in place to make it more difficult for democracy and action and for people to vote. So that's what we have planned for this coming year, and we're really excited about it.
Amazing. It sounds definitely more exciting than our polling stations, Kris. Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, exciting for the wrong reasons, unfortunately, I think, from the conversations I've had with Laurie. But yeah, ours are so clinical, aren't they? Like, you know.
There would be no party or any encouragement there. You just walk into a village hall normally with nobody in it. So, yeah.
Yes. And yeah, perhaps that's a topic for a further week about how we've just been put up for general elections. Hey.
Sure.
Yeah. You're not going to squeeze that into this one, case you need to hold on to that one. So what are the kind of current barriers, Laurie, which kind of deter hospitality workers from highlighting issues that they face day to day? What are the main things that you think that are coming up against that may put them off wanting to make that change?
To make the change, just so I'm clear, we're not talking about elections anymore, right? We're just talking about make the change with themselves and mental health.
Yeah, because you said about promoting the advocacy for them, and so what are the kind of barriers that stop them doing that for themselves? So why create what you've created?
So one of our biggest goals here is to help professionalize this industry more, to make people understand that this, for the majority of it, these are professionals that have chosen this industry as their career. Yes, people come and go. There are folks that work to make fast cash, etc. But a lot of folks, this is their career. And we don't want them to be burnt out and leave their career. We don't want them to go through years of training or to open a restaurant and business and suddenly they decide to shut it down, which affects themselves, their mental health, their families, the communities. It's all a circular effect here. And so through policy advocacy work, it's getting those industry workers who have amazing lived experiences and stories to share, helping train them in a way to become policy advocates, to be able to go then and meet within either their own state legislatures and capitals within their own states, or coming here to Washington, D.C. to be able to use that influence to be able to shape policy with policymakers. And mental health parity is like a big one, right? There is a huge lack of funding. There is a huge lack of access for people to mental health services. It's too expensive. The healthcare system here in the United States is abysmal, unfortunately. And these barriers make it extremely hard for people to get access, continue care, and they feel like nobody cares about them. There are constant industries bailed out all the time, and the restaurant industry is always forgotten about. But yet these workers and business owners are the first that people come to with a handout, to ask for donations, to ask for them to cook for them, etc. And so through that policy advocacy work, we think it's really important to have industry workers involved in the process, so they feel like this is part of something bigger than themselves, and they can be part of the change moving forward.
Pawel, as a recruiter and as someone that has worked in the industry as well, hearing what Laurie's saying, does that kind of resonate with you and obviously the people you now work with, trying to get them into the industry and getting the roles that they want?
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say, can I vote for you, Laurie? Because you know, we could use with a little bit of you in UK. I actually don't even know where to start because, you know, so many things that you've said like really resonates with the issues that we're having. It seems that, you know, hospitality issues across the world are quite universal. So yeah, it's something that you have said before, like the current workforce is facing, you know, stress and anxiety problems that possibly the previous generations weren't facing. You know, global pandemic, massive cost of living crisis, issues with mental health, gosh, the mobile phones, which I'm sure we're possibly going to regulate at some point as well. And you know, for them to be joining places that actually care and that, you know, are focused on creating the environment that people don't want to leave, you know, instead of just like trying to constantly attract people, it's extremely important. So yeah, absolutely.
Can I just jump in real quick with some statistics, if you will? Like in the United States, 80% of chefs struggle with debilitating stress levels. 60% of chefs feel depressed. And close to 80% of employees leave the industry after 2 years. So I just wanted to mention that, building off what Pawel, his industry and what his mission is that those numbers are not acceptable, right? The fact that 80% of employees leave after 2 years, that is a readiness issue. And so if these are frontline workers, which I believe food and beverage industry workers are, then we need to change that. And I think collectively we're doing that. We're moving the needle forward. And I'm really proud of what organizations have taken on and what they're doing, the impact that they're having.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I wanted to say, because I was digging a little bit about numbers, I wanted to bring statistics, you know. So I want to look like a data man, but I'm not very data man. But like one of the things that really came across is like average worker in UK works 36 hours. The typical worker in an office usually works around 38 to 40, you know, 9 to 5 kind of situation. And an average worker in hospitality, and this is completely taken out of my sleeve based on, you know, of experiences of me working on roles and dealing with various vacancies and talking to many candidates, it's usually close to 50. And, you know, while we do, like, it's very important to, you know, create this environment that supports like mental health issues, At the same time, from my perspective as a recruiter, the roles that I get the most interest in are the ones that are 4 days a week or maybe 40 hours per week, and like I think a lot of it, could come with regulation, just as you say, because like UK as an employer, despite being, fifth global economy or whatever, once again, data out of my sleeve, like we allow for unpaid extra hours, perfectly fine, as far, if your wage collectively does not fall beyond minimum wage, you can be unpaid, on your salary, and there's like very little in place. For example, comparing to like EHO, environmental health controls, where like every year every restaurant or operator gets controlled whether to see whether they adhere to hygiene standards. When it comes to like working conditions, no one cares. It's just a piece of paper stored somewhere in a folder, and no one's ever checking whether people get paid for what they should pay, and whether the conditions are actually good for them. So yeah, I'm all for regulations. So can I vote for you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
So I suppose the question then, the burning question that I have is, if Laurie and Pawel, if you were to both have one policy, a new policy for hospitality globally that would help improve the work-life balance and the longevity of this as a profession, what policy would it be and why? So I guess Pawel, we'll start with you, because Laurie, I know this is your forte. So
yeah,
Pawel, what one policy would you bring in and why?
Our regulation, and I really don't think like it's the biggest issue in the industry, and burnout people, burnout leads to mental health issues, addiction issues, and that cascades into everything else, which is this is your forte, Kris. So this is something that I would definitely advocate for. And it's not only hospitality. I mean, look at what's happening in like medical issues, nursing right now. Like doctors are overworked to the bone. So many people that spent years trying to study to build this amazing career, they're leaving like crazy. And it's the same happening right now in teaching. So it's not only hospitality that it's a victim of this, but we know, and I think like looking from around the world with like the 4-day-week experiments that've been done in Sweden and in certain countries across Europe, like I think this is generally the future. This is where we should go. Back to you, Laurie.
Thank you. I believe that when a person is well, there is nothing that a person cannot accomplish. It changes their mindset more into a growth mindset versus abundance, growth mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And even we're talking about politicians, elected officials. I believe if they were well and they were all seeing a therapist on a regular basis, people are lonely. They need somebody to talk to, a professional. And I truly believe, yes, regulations are absolutely essential. But I would advocate for universal mental health care across the board, every industry, for every single person, not just in the restaurant industry. Yes, that's our focus here. But that would affect the customers who also come into the restaurant, who then affect the service workers, right? I truly believe in emotional well-being and people feeling like they are good. And that really starts with your mental health and giving people tools to be able to deal with how they feel because they can't find access to childcare, because their housing is, out of control. They feel like the cost of living is not where it should be. But if you feel good and have the tools within yourself to work through some of the issues that you cannot control, that are absolutely out of your control, I think that we would have a much better and well society.
Well said. Cara, what about yourself? If you were to introduce a policy for the global hospitality community to improve the state of things, what would your policy be?
Oh, you put me on the spot there. That's normally me who asks the question. Oh, that's a hard one. I mean, I think obviously talking to people who work in hospitality, both of the things that have been said are key. Like a restriction on hours, I think, and that time, and again, access to mental health. Oh, I don't know. You put me on the spot, Kris. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. There's probably so many things that should be put in place to make working in the industry. Well, just give back to the people who work in the industry, because they're all so passionate about it. So it would be nice to have stuff in place that means that, you know, they're celebrated. I think for this, however many people that work in the industry as well, it is especially in the UK, it's such a huge sector. And I do think they often feel like they're banging their head against a brick wall and people are not listening. And they provide so much money into this country. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that could do with being put in place, 100%. And I'm sure if there's someone on here that actually works in hospitality, VAT would probably be top of their list as well.
Taxes.
And taxes, getting all of that sorted out for them. Yeah. Trying to untie their hands, which are behind their backs, because all they really want to do is make money and put more money into the country's economy.
Yeah, such an interesting thing, isn't it? Because there's so many different variables. I say, let's start by giving everyone who works in hospitality, tourism, and leisure the same day off. So, like, everyone gets like a hospitality day off. Only hospitality professionals have access to this, and then all of a sudden, we'll start to see people quite interested in taking a career up because they're actually being seen and understood. God, could you imagine this one Thursday on this particular day of the month, maybe once or twice a year, everyone in hospitality gets a paid day off, irrespective of whether it's a day off or not. And that's just as recognition of the dedication and the hard work they put in on a daily basis.
I'd like to give a shout out real quick to a chef who also, Dominique Crenn, you might be familiar with her. She now has a Golden Poppy, a restaurant in Paris as well. So she's over your way in Europe. But she gives her restaurant in San Francisco, Atelier Crenn, closes down for a week. So the entire team can take a holiday together at the same time. So nobody is jockeying for shift coverage or switching, someone's taking up kind of the slack of somebody else while they're out. Across the board, the business is closed. They let their patrons know ahead of time. This is an annual event. People have come to expect it. They're customers, right? Nobody bats an eye at this, but it's to give them rest and respite, and also to absolutely support their mental health and emotional well-being. And I just think that's a perfect model that I wish, if it's sustainable for those business owners, that they could take a page out of her book.
Yeah, there's definitely restaurants in the UK, some chefs that do that for their teams as well. Yeah, and it's like you said, if they are able to do that, then it's amazing for their teams. So, you mentioned, Laurie, and well, both of you mentioned the amount of people that are leaving the industry. Do you think businesses are aware of the cost implications of that? As in, if you model your business so that it is more accommodating and you do look after your team so they do stay, it's more financially as well as productivity better. Do you think enough businesses have that understanding and that capability, I suppose?
No, I don't think enough businesses have that understanding. And I think that's where not the Cooks Collective, but there are other partners of ours who focus on training, financial education, trying to help businesses with strategy. A lot of folks that I come across, they were chefs and they really didn't ever go to business school, right? And they open these restaurants and they have the best intentions, but then they realize, not necessarily decisions that they made on their own, but it's hard to navigate rent increases, leasing agreements, whether or not taxes change, whether or not businesses around them close down, and then they're faced with the burden of the person sells the building that they've been leasing from, and now they have to move. And then a lot of business owners decide, we're just not going to move. We're just going to close the business. To have kind of more of that educational piece, I think would help create more sustainable businesses for business owners. And of course, it would affect those employees that work for them.
Yeah.
Financial literacy, I guess, is the word I was looking for.
Yeah. And so my biggest mantra, and it's something I keep always writing on LinkedIn, it's to create the environment that people don't want to leave. And this is like I feel a lot of, especially larger groups, they focus so much on, creating this amazing PR and message about how great it is to work for them. So, they're in this constant stream of attraction candidates. But like when you actually start working for some of those places, and I know a lot of gossip, I speak to people, it's actually crap. And like you see turnover rates, of like 40% within like a quarter, which is insane. Is basically replacing entire team within 6 months. So yes, like for me, employers should focus more on retention. Today I was speaking to one of my clients, hi Anna from York, and she's been very very lucky to create an environment like her entire kitchen team is the same team basically for the last 9 years, which is like unheard of. And that might mean things like maybe bumping somebody contract up for like extra 10K just to make sure that they can get on the mortgage market, then reduce it, make sure that like if somebody's car is broken, give them money to fix it, and then like maybe spread the payment over 12 months. Like there's a lot of employers to do little things like this, but like you don't really get to see it in a large corporate environment where everybody is a number. So yeah, let's keep people instead of keep trying to replace them. I know it's gonna put me out of the business, but like I don't care.
Agreed.
Such a great point, though, isn't it? If we recognize individuals and the pinch points that individuals have within organizations, and we recognize that each of their needs are unique, providing you've got the financial capability in the first place, but also understanding that if you make these small little tweaks on an individual basis, you'll be able to keep people for longer and they'll perform better. So, for example, if you have a single parent who is working, who's dropping the kids off to school, making sure their start and stop times work along the school pickup, but also potentially going a step further and maybe paying for a cleaner to come in once a week and to clean the house for them so that they don't have that demand, or maybe paying for a laundry company to come and do the laundry. Do you know, like these small little things that may only cost 20, 30, 40 pounds per month or whatever it might be, but that just shows that you value that individual and you value their time and you value the effort and energy they put into your organization. Yeah, just those small little things. Like, so maybe just asking people, what is it that they want? What are they struggling with? What can you help with? And understanding that tiny little bit of investment might mean that they stay for an extra 6 months, a year, 12 months, 24 months, and maybe it'd be biggest advocates, right?
Yeah, may I just give you an example? I used to work with a wonderful manager. Her name was Elise. Elise was a single mother. Her kid just started primary school. Elise did breakfast and a lunch shift at the place where we used to work. So she worked every day 7 till 3. And she was there for 9 years. And only, like, where else do you get breakfast, lunch managers, that have this kind of schedules? And like, for me, like being in that company and seeing how well she was accommodated, never expected to work weekends either. It's like, you get it right, guys. This little tweak.
Yeah, definitely. Sticking with what people want, how much do candidates prioritize all of the things that we've discussed, Pawel, when you're talking to them about what they want from a role? How important are things such as training or access to mental health and wellbeing programs? Are they, for any employers who are listening to this, how important are those things to people who are looking for a new role?
Incredibly important. But I would still, if I had to choose, I think I would still pick work-life balance over like mental health support, because I think it's like from the roles that I advertise, and I could go deeper, and we have 5 minutes, so I can't. But the ones that receive the most interest are usually the ones that offer like that very far away from like 48, 49 work week. If you look at statistics, generally employee engagement. So whether like you receive feedback, whether you're able to make decisions at work, whether people care about your contribution, like statistically they're more important than, for example, a good salary. But yes, also training, amazingly important, and it's also a great way to keep somebody in a company. years ago, I attended a conference with Jumeirah, and it's one of these big hotel groups in Dubai, and like they have perfectly laid down a plan for everybody. Everybody that's in the company, at least for 5 years, they're gonna be a manager in the department. If you stay in a company for 15 years, you might have a go at being GM, things like this. So it's so important when you join company, like there's actually a plan for you. That's me shutting up. This timer, it's timer. I was just like,
ignore the timer.
Don't worry about the timer. We can change it. We can roll it back a little bit if needs be. Don't panic. I don't want it to cause any anxiety. So
No anxiety.
you wait till the buzzer goes off at 0. That'll really set
my laptop will go off. Yeah.
I think this kind of leads us nicely onto I mentioned that the Best Places to Work Awards was last week, I believe, in the UK. And how important is it to highlight those employers who are making the effort and who are trying to change and who are listening? I think listening is probably a key word in this discussion. Laurie, what do you think? Because often it's easy to highlight the bad. It's easy to talk about the bad, but is it important to highlight the good?
Absolutely. It's a recognition and showing awareness to the team and staff from a more, larger view, through a wider lens of what an employer is willing to do. And that can be used as a model, hopefully, for other businesses and restaurants to see what is working, and then highlighting the effects, the positive impact that's having on those employees goes a long way. It makes the individuals feel like they're being recognized again at a more grander level. And then it also, like I said, shows other businesses the model. It creates a model of, look what you can do. Look at what the impact you can have and how it will also affect your business in a positive way when you really take the measures and have the will to make changes within your business to create a better environment.
So it'd be good to have one of these awards throughout the whole of the world then, making sure that
I'll say here in the United States, the James Beard, they have gone into creating categories to highlight businesses, but you all would understand and probably agree with me. There are so many restaurants that are left out of James Beard, consideration because of, the kind of business that they are. And I think that some of those businesses that are making great impact and doing really wonderful things for their employees are kind of left out of the loop there. So I love what you all are doing over in the UK, and I think it's fantastic. And I hope that we can adopt that model over here in the United States.
We do have something which we've been working on for years now, and it was meant to be launched last year, but the project management at the moment is we've been juggling a lot of balls, but it is a global accreditation specifically focusing on organizations that are doing the right thing, both culturally and in terms of supportive structures for mental health and well-being. So having the right policies in place, having the right time off, having their rotas far enough in advance, having mental health training, having support mechanisms, that is built. And it's ready to go, and it's underpinned by psychological, organizational psychology as well. So you could tick off all the boxes of things that you have in place, but until you finally go through the organizational psychology piece, you're not fully signed off. So you're processing, but actually what we're able to do with that is to be able to see how people are feeling, what the rates of burnout, turnover, and tension, presenteeism are within organizations, so that we can then feed that back to the organizations. So there's a continual improvement cycle. So that is built. It is ready to go. I just need to click go and get people starting to access that, and making sure that we have the resource and the funds available to be able to process those applications as well. So watch this space for that. Shameless plug there. Sorry.
It's exclusive announcement. I thought you were going to go live now, and the marketing team would have an absolute
If Emmy's watching this, my marketing director, she's like, "What? Not another thing." But in essence, we've gone through a number of consultations with this with some of the major players in the UK so far. the appetite is strong for it. We just need to make sure that as an organization we're able to cope with that demand, that groundswell. But yeah, there's something coming, and then once it's there, it'll be great places to work around the world in hospitality. You wouldn't even need to advertise anymore, because you'll be listed as that organization where people love to come and don't want to leave. Finally.
Incredible. Giddy, that's the word.
Giddy. Yeah, well, I'll send you both the details so that you can have a look. But if that is something that people are interested in, then drop a comment on this, and our team will get in contact and start explaining to you what that process is like and how to get involved. But start more positivity in hospitality, right? It's a fantastic career. It's a brilliant profession. We are moving so quickly in the right direction. And yes, I know there are still pockets of things that aren't going quite as well, but in terms of industry U-turns, this is huge. This is a pivotal point in the hospitality timeline. So incredibly exciting. Let's promote it more. Let's do the right things to make sure the right people are getting the limelight. I got all passionate then. Sorry, off my soapbox again.
Well, I mean, we have run out of time, so it's probably the perfect place to finish after your super passionate speech there, Kris. Unless anybody has anything they would like to add, Laurie or Pawel, any closing statements?
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I hope we can do it again. I have 3 pages of things to talk to. I need to rehearse it into like 5-minute clips. And maybe we can talk once again. Thank you so much. And Laurie, what a pleasure.
Yes, as well. Yes.
Well, thank you both. Next week, we're back at the normal time, I believe, 9:30 a.m. Yes, we are. And our guests next week are Rebecca Marshman, who's the group head pastry chef at Baxter Story, and Simon Lumpford, who's managing director of AA Media. So if either of those are someone that you want to grill, then please do jump on next week and get your questions across to them. But yeah, thank you both very much for joining us. Kris, I think that's it. So
lovely. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. And
thank you.
With that, have a lovely weekend. Enjoy your Saturday and Sunday. Over here, bank holiday on Monday as well, so we get 3 days. Right. So signing off.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.